Next door, next door neighbor.
334.
Yes.
Blessed assurance.
Oh, yeah.
All right, don't even have to hunt for it.
This morning we got Mr.stillerman with us from Sardis.
Good morning, everybody. How is everyone? Well, I'm bringing greetings from Sardis Baptist, and appreciate the invitation to be with you today. And want you to know, if you ever find yourself on Sardis Road looking for a place to worship, please join us. We'd love to have you. Our scripture this morning comes from Matthew 25, 1 through 13. A familiar one, people talk about bridesmaids who may or may not have oil in their lanterns.
2806.
So here now these good words, the parable of the 10 bridesmaids. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 bridesmaids took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. As the bridegroom was delayed, all of them became drowsy and slept. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, here is the bridegroom, come out to meet him." Then all those bridesmaids got up and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, for our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "No, there will not be enough for you and for us. You had better go to the dealers and buy some for yourselves." And while they went to buy it, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went with him into the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the other bridesmaids came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I do not know you. Keep awake, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." Friends, this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. This sermon is entitled, "No Shortage." This morning, I want to invite you to read our text in a traditional way. Let's assume that it's an allegory, which means that the bridegroom is the Christ. The 10 maidens are church-going folks like you and me, and the wedding banquet is the kingdom of heaven. That place or that space or that holy communion we're given a foretaste of in the presence of Jesus. The bridegroom has gone off to attend to his business, presumably negotiating a dowry in order to bring home his bride. But there's a traffic jam on 485, and he's been delayed, and he's forgotten his cell phone charger. So it could be 20 minutes, it could be an hour, it could be all night, it could be longer. But don't worry, y'all, he's coming. 10 attendants await the bridegroom's arrival. They'll serenade this new couple with torches held high, and it will be super festive. Think Lady Guinevere arriving to the pomp and circumstance of Camelot. And for offering this important welcome, the maidens will be rewarded with entrance into a grand gala. But all maidens aren't the same. Some of them keep Google calendars. They always bring a water bottle and trail mix on a hike, or a jacket to the movie theater for when it's cold. And they always have Kleenex in their purses and a stack of mismatched fast food napkins in their glove compartments, because you just never know when you'll need them. And yes, of course, some maidens keep a healthy supply of lamp oil for bridegrooms, who, despite their best intentions, are always running late. And then, friends, of course, there are absent-minded maidens who would forget their heads and their extremities if they weren't attached, let alone an extra can of kerosene. And maidens who expect that someone else will be accountable. Someone's always got an umbrella to spare. Why not some lamp oil, too? Or maidens who don't take time to listen or to pay attention or to slow down and realize what is really important. And so in the end, 5 maidens have provisions to spare and 5 don't. But prepared or not, each must rest. And their sleep lasts longer than their torches. And when our belated bridegroom finally arrives in the wee hours of the morning, only half of our maidens are ready to embrace the moment. The other 5 must scurry off to find a 24-hour Walmart with a camping section. But entrances and events are time-sensitive creatures. They aren't well suited for do-overs. The moment is fleeting, and once it's gone, it's gone. And so 5 maidens prepared and alert enjoy the party, and 5 maidens idle and distracted stand outside the door, which is no longer open. So the traditional takeaway from this parable is that we have no way to predict when Christ will return. And so we are to live as if it could happen soon, which means we must be prepared and ready. And even though the grains of sand in the hourglass drip slow and give us plenty of opportunities, the hourglass will eventually empty. And as Coach John Wooden used to say, when the opportunity has arrived, it is too late to prepare. So be wise and take heed, for the foolish will be left wanting. Now, I've paraphrased our text for us this morning, and I've taken more than a few liberties with commentaries that I've used. But it's funny, today is one of those days when each of the commentaries I prepared with left me wanting something more, something different. And to be very candid, I really don't like the ending of our text or where this traditional interpretation leads us. And that's mainly because I'm left with more questions than answers. I know this is a parable, and I know we're using an analogy, but lamp oil is a commodity. It's finite. And some days it might be in scarce supply, and some days you might just be lucky enough to have it because you were in the right place at the right time. And some days, no matter how hard you try, there may be no oil to be had. I wasn't old enough to experience the gas crisis of the late 70s, nor the rations of the world wars, but I doubt that everyone who lacked enough fuel or supplies in those days did so because of idleness or unpreparedness. In some cases, they just didn't have access, or maybe they just didn't even have a little bit of luck. Or maybe those 5 women who didn't have lamp oil, maybe they were dirt poor. Maybe they brought what they had in the hopes that either their peers or their master would offer them understanding. I know the text calls them foolish, but is that accurate? Or is that a label offered from the seat of privilege or from the seat of righteousness? You are so foolish. If you just get a license, it'd be no problem to vote. If you'd only bought health insurance, you wouldn't have to worry about that bill. If you just get a job, you wouldn't be late on your mortgage. If you wouldn't waste your money on a cell phone, you could easily pay your light bill. All you have to do is prepare and be alert. But on the other hand, just how wise were the other 5 maidens? Did they have time to stock up on lamp oil because they actually had a job that gave them a lunch hour to go looking, or a wage that gave them enough to buy their extra share? When the hour comes, the haves, that is, the wise ones, the haves, the ones with the extra oil, tell the have-nots, the foolish ones, no, there will not be enough for you and for us, so you need to go get it somewhere else. And to me, that's where this story falls apart. The lamp oil is supposed to be the substance of faith that offers us entrance into the banquet. It's the material we acquire. That means it's our lessons, our scriptures, our prayers, our acts of kindness, our reception of God's Spirit. The oil is that piece of God that is allowed to shape our very being. It's the stuff that transforms us. As a matter of fact, my friend Tilly tells us it's Jesus himself. And so here's what I'd like to know. When did God's Spirit, that thing that fills us and shapes us, when did that become a finite commodity to be divided among the wise and the foolish? When did Jesus say there's not enough of me to go around, or there's no more room at my table? Good friends, I may be a fool, and a fool whose homiletics professor would also say a foolish exegete, but I will tell you with a certainty that goes beyond the good book we study. The Spirit that fills you and me is not finite. It is not to be hoarded. It is not to be confined. It is not to be underestimated. It is not to be likened to a Black Friday sale. And it is not to be watered down by threats of judgment. No, we do not have control over when and how and even if Christ returns. And yes, we do have some accountability in the matter. a lot, I believe. Each of us are fortunate enough to be infused with God's Spirit, and knowing such a grace, we are called to respond and use the gifts it inspires in us and in others. Because we know the presence of God in our lives, accountability is both necessary and inevitable. But again, God's Spirit is not finite. And it's not enough for us just to be wise. It's not enough for us to saunter into the banquet ignoring the foolish. I believe that we have to ask the question, what makes us wise to God? And if we are fortunate to acquire such wisdom and to be filled with the joy that such wisdom brings, are we ready to share that wisdom with others?
Yeah.
In other words, once we've filled up our oil tank, are we willing to help others learn to fill up their tank too? Because in my opinion, when there are 10 maidens, it's not enough for only 5 of them to have their fill. Good friends, we know neither the day nor the hour. But in this hour, we will invite the bridegroom to join us at our table. And there is plenty of oil to light your torch. And if you care to make God's table a regular stop on your journey, I dare say your supply will never run short, no matter if you are wise or foolish. Amen. Can I offer a prayer for us? What at our community of faith, we always ask our concerns and blessings. What blessings did we bring this morning? What celebrations?
Good health.
Good health. All right. Are we celebrating any birthdays or near birthdays?
Henry's at the end of the month here.
You got one?
You got one?
I had one last Sunday.
You had one last Sunday. All right.
Beginning of the month.
Henry at the end of the month. And I'm sorry, tell me your name again.
Oh, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Yes,
Henry
sir.
and Jimmy. Okay.
When's yours?
Come on.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. What's your name?
Yeah.
William. Okay. Can we sing happy birthday?
Sure.
All right. Why don't we go Henry, Jimmy, and William? So we'll say happy birthday if you can get it out. Henry, Jimmy, and William.
Be in the right key. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, guys.
This is for Halloween.
Halloween. All right. Birthdays and good health. What other things can we celebrate this morning?
Being above ground.
Above ground. All right. Breath in our lungs.
Being in the house of the Lord.
The hurricane victims, that could have been us, but they are suffering, so we can celebrate what we have, but we also keep them in our face.
Any concerns this morning?
As for prayers for my dad, he's been moved to memory care center and it's not doing very well. Having a hard time adjusting.
What's his first name?
David.
And can we pray for the 3 or the children that can't get out of work?
Any other concerns? Would you join your prayer with mine? God, we are grateful for the bright sun that shines outside. Most grateful because its light reminds us of your light in our lives. We're grateful also for the people that build this room. We're grateful for who they are, for what they bring to the world, for what they bring to each of us, and for how you fill each of them with goodness and light and spirit to go and be your people. We're grateful, God, to worship together in a place that is safe and is bright and is full of people filled with your Spirit. We're grateful, God, for birthdays. We're grateful because these days remind us that every person is special, that every person carries your dignity and your value and your spirit, and that every person has the potential to be just as Jesus. God, we're also grateful for being fortunate, for living in an area of the country that was not affected by hurricanes or tsunamis or blizzards or heat or other things that we have no control over. But as we give thanks for our good fortune, we also offer prayers of peace and understanding and most especially of strength and health that you would help these neighbors experiencing floods and other difficulties and relocation. God, we also pray for David as he moves into a new phase of care. We ask that you would continue to show him little signs of your presence, that you would make his mind clear in points in time to remember those who care about him and most especially to remember your presence. God, we remember those who are sick and shut in and those who cannot come out and be present today. And most of all, God, we realize that we have asked today to think about those who need to feel your presence and to receive your help. And it occurs to us that we have probably either forgotten to mention names or failed to mention names. Or maybe there are things that seem too insignificant to be mentioned, or even worse, too hard to be mentioned. And so, God, because we trust in you as a source of hope and confidence, we ask that you would receive those unspoken requests, that you would find a way to communicate either through us or with us. Most of all, God, we ask all of this because we believe in your transforming power. We ask that you would make us instruments of your hope and your love and your joy, of your peace, of your service, of your understanding and cooperation, and that you would send us out of here today to make the world a little better.
Yes.
We ask all of this in the name of your Son, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you all so much.
I'll be in your ear. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, my brother. All right. Say something. God bring it
well. I'll let you raise it. Right, my brother. All right.
Y'all be praying.
I got enough for you. Run up down to get out.
Hey, how you doing? I don't know your name. Laura, nice to see you. Hey. Thank you. Y'all have a good day. Hey, good to see you. All right, my friends, I'm out next week. I'm going camping with you. So y'all be praying. Thanks. I'll love you
Y'all be
too.
safe. Be safe. Love you. Yes, sir.
What's up, bro? Come in here. Hey, come on, Jay. You won't remember where you go. Here. They gonna stop back,
Glad to see you. I saw you know. I saw you know that. Truck I come in and I stepped out.
You did? Hey, that make you take notice, right?
Oh yeah.
Have a good day, Mr. Wiley.
Okay, you too.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you.
All right, my brother. All right, sir. All right. Yeah, you too. All right, my brother. All right.
You're
I'll be back. Okay.
Go ahead, car door. I gotta get my number. You wanna walk me that way? Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Have a good one, bro.
Okay.
Albert, you know it's getting ready to get cold.
No, not getting ready, it's already.
Yeah, it's already on. But it really got real cold. Yeah, but it's getting ready to get real cold.
Okay, then you prepared for it.
Well, that's what,
Were you a Boy Scout? Your motto is be prepared.
but now what the Boy Scout?
You in the Boy
But I
Scout?
already done the phone.
Shame on you.
I already done
Well,
the
look here, I played the phone,
I could
great
put-
cotton, house,
cut
and all that,
wood.
but I still was a scout.
I cut wood early in the morning.
Yep.
And put in the heater.
Well, hey, you ain't telling me nothing.
But as a Boy Scout.
Well, I did that and still was a Boy Scout.
Okay.
Hey, whoa, motto, be prepared.
And I plowed the mule. I plowed
I didn't put no music,
I plowed the
I
mule.
walked behind the music, putting out the stuff. No, yeah, you know.
I walked the mule all day.
Well, good for you. Made you a better man. Then.
The mule wore me out. I ain't wearing the mule out. The mule wore me out.
Okay, then, well, that's, or you would wear yourself out or wear the music.
That mule always stand there, always lay down. That
Oh,
mule
Lord.
I never seen that mule lay down. He stood up 24/7. Did it? The mule, yeah. I ain't never seen the mule lay down.
You just find that music too hard, did you?
That mule with me on.
Some of you know when
Let
rush
me
out.
let me lay down. The mule never did lay down.
All right, bro. Yes, sir. Happy birthday again, my brother. Now, really, really. Really, oh, yeah,
That's really good. Okay, so the fellow on Sunday. Yeah, I told him he was coming in. It'll be 9:30, 12:30.
Okay.
And then you got the evening thing.
Yeah.
If you want to serve hot dog, you gotta stay outside.
Okay.